it was a surprise to us all that she became ill so suddenly. She had been declining over the years. She was now in her upper 80s. I love my grandmother so much, and I had helped my parents help her. And I said, I'll take care of grandmother while you're gone. My parents desperately needed a respite vacation. I said, I'll be here if she needs me. My parents decided, I was working, I was in the corporate world, in the human resources field. My parents chose a home in Laguna Beach, top of the world, specialized in Alzheimer's. Very nice home, and it had just opened. I went with my parents to take my grandmother, and all seemed fine. 3 days later, I visited her, she seemed fine. Well, on the 5th day, the owner called me and said, you have to come and get your grandmother. She has pneumonia, and I don't want her to die here. You have to do something. I was shocked, and I said, well, can't we wait until tomorrow? Because, I really want to consult with my parents, and they're not reachable right now, but they will be tomorrow. No, you have to come right away. I called my grandmother's neurologist, and he said, take her to the hospital immediately. Call an ambulance if needed. I then called her primary care physician, and he said, if you want to bring your grandmother home, I will do everything I can to help you. If she needs oxygen, feeding tube, anything, you can count on me. He knew my grandmother, and he knew that she didn't want to be hooked up on machines. She had actually signed a DNR, do not resuscitate. I chose to do that. I called a friend in Los Angeles. He drove all the way to Irvine, and from Irvine we went to Laguna Beach, picked her up, brought her back. He had to return to a commitment in Los Angeles. We sat my grandmother in a comfortable armchair, her favorite armchair. And no sooner was she seated in the armchair, she looked up, and through the crack in her eyes, she was in a semi-trance state, she said, Mom, Mom. Her mother had died when she was a little girl. And I went close to make sure I was hearing those words correctly. She saw her mother, and I feel her mother had come to get her, to take her home. I sat next to my grandmother and I held her hand and I told her how much I loved her and what a wonderful grandmother she was. I mentioned everybody in the family and said how much each one of us loved her and appreciated her. So I was with her for a good 10 minutes. And then I had a sudden urge to make cookies. Mm-hmm. She would always make cookies for us when we visited her, and when she came to our house, she would make cookies. So of course, I wanted to make cookies. I went down the hall to the kitchen to get some cookbooks, and I was going to go back and choose a recipe. And I heard a cough. I went straight back to the room, and her head was on the armchair. And she had a very peaceful, serene look on her face. Her skin had been wrinkled from years living in the desert. No wrinkles, just incredible serenity. And I thought, I think she died. I think she took her last breath. I went close to her, I took her pulse, sure enough. That was her passage. That moment took my fear of death away, because I realized that death can be peaceful, it can be loving, it can be gentle.